I visited with you not long ago about how Camara and I met through horses, and the story from her perspective and mine of what took place there. Carrying that a little forward, we had decided to get married. She had accepted my proposal, and I had rented a 1,600-acre farm there down close to Ripley, Oklahoma. It had 600 acres of farm ground and 1,000 acres of pasture. Had just gotten my master's degree at college and was going to go farming and had absolutely no money. So I went to the bank and I told the banker, told him what ranch that I had rented, and I said, if you'll buy cattle, I'll feed them and take care of them. I gave him a couple of phone numbers to call, some people in my background, one my banker that I had growing up. A little sidelight with that banker I was growing up was Mr. Franklin at the Blanchard First National Bank. I called him one day when I was 16 years old and said, Mr. Thornton, I bought a herd of cattle today and wrote a check for it. I'll be in a few days to sign a note. That's the words I used. And he said, fine. And he had already made good the $17,000 check that I had written. He had had no notice that I was going to do this, but he made good on the check. I went in, signed the note. He didn't ask for Dad to sign. I know now, looking back, that it wasn't me that he loaned the money to. It was because of Dad's reputation in the area. All of us had a good reputation. And I did. I got it all paid back. But anyway, I went into the bank and made this offer to him or this request of him. He made the phone calls, and when he hung up, he said, go buy what cattle you want. And so I walked out of the bank. I went down to the John Deere equipment dealer in town, told him what farm I had rented, and I said, I'm a good farmer. Here's a couple of numbers to verify my reputation and my expertise. And I said, what I'd like for you to do is provide me with a line of used equipment, and I will wear it out while I'm taking care of it. He made the phone calls, and when he hung up, we went out in the yard, and I got a tractor and some equipment to go with that tractor. And so that within the next couple of weeks, I was in debt to the tune of $87,000. Now, that doesn't sound like much in this day, but when you consider that this was 1964, 80 years ago, 60 years ago, that was a huge amount of debt. And so Camara and I got married, but I told you about the little shotgun house we moved into. It was on the farm, and I'm running the farm in operation. And it was there that we did actually really well. I was named the outstanding young farmer in Payne County 3 years in a row. We went along and Camara was teaching riding lessons, and I was farming and taking care of cattle. And there's some stories that will go with that in the future here for you to understand. And while we were there, my day was a typical farmer's life. I was putting in 16-hour days, and in that 16-hour days, I was either working with cattle, or I was on the tractor farming, or I was riding a horse. I was the gopher, I was the boss, I was the mechanic, the field hand, because it was just me. Camara was teaching riding and riding horses, and we lived on $250 a month those first several years. Not very much in today's standards, but we lived well. We had plenty to eat. We didn't go out. We didn't do a lot of other things. But life was good. And we've thoroughly enjoyed our young years and doing that. We'll talk some more about that in the next days to come. Have a good evening.